on already. Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Town of Virden All Candidates Debate Forum, brought to you by the Virden Chamber of Commerce. My name is Travis Rintoul, and I represent CIBC as a director on the Virden Chamber of Commerce. I'll be your host and moderator for this evening, and so on behalf of the Virden Chamber of Commerce, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all here to the Virden Odd Theatre for this important event in local politics. We're very pleased tonight to have a total of 5 candidates campaigning for the role of Town Councillor. It's important to note the commitment and dedication that it takes to run a political campaign at any level of government. Furthermore, each of these candidates have demonstrated a willingness and an eagerness to serve their friends and neighbours on our local town council should they be the successful candidate in next week's election. Although the position of town councillor may at times seem like a thankless job, we see it as a very important and significant role in terms of moving our community forward in today's rapidly changing world. So with that, I'll ask that we all put our hands together and welcome each of the candidates here to the debate. On behalf of the Town of Virden, I've also been asked to say a special thank you to all the participants in tonight's debate. Although ultimately only one candidate will be successful in this election, the Town Council would like to encourage all of tonight's participants to maintain their interest in our community through the many volunteer organizations and opportunities that we have, including our very own Chamber of Commerce. So before we begin tonight's debate, I will ask that we please turn off all our cell phones, smartphones, mobile phones, bag phones, iPads, playbooks, Blackberries, Crackberries, Bluetooth, Galaxy 3s, laptops, pagers, beepers, iPads, tasers, timekeepers, Androids, Autobots, DVAs, Nintendo Wii's, Gamma Rays, mobile social messaging devices, and any other electronic mechanism or doodad that's out on the market that could become a distraction to our candidates and fellow audience members. I'd like to take the opportunity now to outline the format for tonight's debate. We're going to run a 4-part format for the evening. The first part of the debate will be the introduction and summary of platform session. Each of our candidates will be given 3 minutes to introduce themselves and explain their campaign for the position of Town Councillor. I'll also note that the order in which the candidates have been chosen to present has been predetermined by a random method just prior to tonight's debate. So all the candidates were present during this time, so I can attest that the order has been chosen the fairest way possible with no bias being placed towards any one of the candidates. Because tonight's evening is being sponsored by the Virden Chamber of Commerce, the second part of the evening will be a discussion around the partnership between the Virden Chamber of Commerce and Town Council. There will be 2 questions on this topic to which each of the candidates will then have 1 minute to respond. Prior to tonight's debate, the Virden Chamber of Commerce had lobbied our local business community and residents for questions that they felt were important to the political race. So the third part of this evening will be a question and answer period dedicated to these questions, which have all been pre-screened by a panel of our local chamber directors. The questions will be directed to an individual candidate who will then have 1 minute to form a response to the question. Following their response, there will be a 1-minute opportunity given to each of the other 4 candidates to add their thoughts or comments, as well as make any necessary rebuttals. The last word on each topic will then be given back to the initial candidate, who will have an additional 30 seconds to clarify their position. So we keep things running here tonight. So. I'd also like to point out that none of the candidates have been given these questions ahead of time, and so they will be hearing them for the first time tonight when they're asked. This brings me to the final part of the evening, the audience questions. It's during this time that we will present questions posed by our audience throughout the debate. As you'll notice, each of you have been given paper and pencil at the door when you came in, so although we can't guarantee that all the questions asked will be answered, we do encourage you to write down any questions that you'd like us to present to the candidates. And lastly, following tonight's debate, I welcome you all to the back of the theatre for snacks and refreshments brought to you by Tim Hortons in Virden. Should you have further questions or concerns, our candidates will be available during this time for further discussion. So with that, I will turn things over to Frank Vandenhoek, who will be our first candidate to present their campaign. Go ahead, Frank.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank you for giving up your Friday evening to hear us speak. Don't you guys have any lives out there? Anyways, I'd like to thank the Chamber for making this evening possible. I've lived around the Virden area for about 20 years. I've farmed for 10 years, and for 10 years or so I've owned and ran equipment for independence. My late wife and I, we raised 3 children. They all went to school here, graduated. We raised numerous foster kids for various lengths of times. And we found that Virden, on the whole, is a very beautiful, nice community to raise a family in. People are friendly. The people have pride in their community. The way they spruce it up for the flowers and all that sort of stuff that's being grown in Cities in Bloom contests and that sort of stuff. Just tremendous pride. I have no particular axe to grind with the way the town's being run. Sure, we all see places where things could be improved. The potholes on the street, boy, I'd like to see every street paved. Reality is, there's always a budget that hits you. You can only do so much in a year. We battle snow. It'd be nice to see that snow cleared up a little quicker. Maybe we have to be a little bit more creative in how we pay our town employees. If they work overtime, can we give them that in time off instead of having to pay the extra time if they'll put it in for clearing snow and that sort of thing. We need to develop more daycare spaces. It's always an ongoing concern, and it's just not in Virden. I think it's a countrywide problem. I believe there's also a need for affordable housing. Everybody in town doesn't have a job that pays 25 bucks an hour. Maybe somewhere we need to start a trailer court or something along that line. The oil boom has been a real blessing for Virden, but I don't think we want to sit and just watch that go on. We need to work hard to create some kind of an industry or different industries that actually produce something, that are not just service industries. And I think now is the time to really push that ball, because it's much easier to attract other industries to town when there's something going for the town, instead of waiting till the oil's finished and then trying to start economic boom up again. That's a job and a half. I'd also like to see if we can cut some of the expenses on the way the town operates. Sometimes we have to think outside of that box a little bit. Sometimes we have to ask the employees to come up with some answers. Sometimes the guys working at the bottom end of the line, they see where there's waste and money spent that's not all that important. I've sat on various boards: Southwest Regional Health Authority, Child and Family Services, Credit Union Board in Saskatchewan, Parent and Teacher Advisory Council, and several others, which apparently I don't have time for anymore.
I'm like the evil person.
Okay, if elected, I would definitely listen to your concerns and bring them to council for you. I would work for the betterment of the community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. With that, I'll turn things over to Amanda.
Good evening. I just want to say thanks also for coming and giving us a chance to speak tonight. I'm interested in running for council. I've grown up in Virden and it's very close to my heart. We chose to stay in Virden after I finished school and have our kids here, and I feel very strongly about this community. I've worked in Virden for most of my career, but also in Brandon, and I've seen some of the nice differences in a small community. It really has convinced me to stay here, and I would like to be able to sort of give back to that community. I graduated here and went to Brandon University. Like I said, have worked a little bit in Brandon through community health and public health, and also in Virden through public health. I have recently sold, but had run a small business in town here for about 5 years. And like I said, we have 2 young children that we're raising here. I know that Virden has a lot to offer, and we have been very lucky that we have always had, childcare spaces that we needed, and But like Frank said, there are some things that we need to continue to work on to offer more for more families. My work has almost always been working with families with young children, and so I'm quite aware of the challenges that families face, particularly families that are new to this area. Childcare being a big one and housing being another. We do have lots of opportunity right now for new families to come to the area. There's lots of economic development and new jobs happening, but it's really difficult for people to come. I've talked to families and worked with families that travel to, half an hour out of their way to take their kids to childcare and then come back to the community. And the more we have people leaving the community for things like that, then it affects us economically as well. We want people to be able to meet all their needs in the community, and then we don't have people driving to Brownon for childcare who are also then buying their groceries in Brownon and stuff like that. I'm also very interested in, I think that Virden does a very good job in supporting our recreation and having programs, but I would like to continue to develop programming for young children. I know that the money spent on supporting families with young children, it comes back very quickly to the community. It's very small investments make very big differences to the health and well-being of our community, and I think it's important that we start with those families with young children. And just to continue the work that has been started with having programming available, I see lots of opportunity to continue with programming to promote health and well-being in our community. So, thank you.
All right, thank you, Amanda. And Tina, if you want to come up.
So I guess I'll be the third one to thank everybody for coming tonight, because I was quite pleasantly surprised to come around the corner and see so many cars. Once Al pointed out a few people were at the meat draw, it wasn't as many people as I thought. I'm still kind of happy to see this many people here. For those of you who don't know me, I was raised in Virden as well. My husband Rennie and I moved back here when our children were small. They're now both teenagers at the collegiate, and we run Arcade Computers. I don't take my decision to run for council lightly. I know it is definitely a thankless job at many times. There's obviously been decisions that I, as well as other people here, have seen made that we do like, that we don't like. I don't think you would always get an agreement from everybody in the decisions that are made, but my philosophy is if I'm willing to criticize the decisions that you're going to make, I should be willing to step up and be one of the people who's willing to help make the decisions. I am definitely a stakeholder in the future of Virden. Being a business owner, I obviously want my own business to grow, and that doesn't happen in a vacuum. The more strong businesses you have and the more support we get, the more all of our businesses will grow. As a parent who has children who hopefully soon are going to be going out on their own, I would like to see Virden as a place that they would consider returning to, that they could look at, as I did, and see it as a place that you come back to raise your children. As a taxpayer, I concern myself with how our tax dollars are spent to make sure that we're spending them in the ways that are helping our community and that are going to benefit the largest amount of our community. Growth and development seems to be our big community thing right now. It's highway development, it's business development, it's industrial development. I think that we're in a very big boom period right now. Listen to people talk who have been around Virden a long time. This is obviously not the first time this has happened. We have to make sure we get as much out of it as we can this time around. That development has a lot to do with our infrastructure, our water, our sewer, our roads, all huge cost issues. I'm worried about the other end of development. As our town gets bigger, as more things go on, as taxes go up, I also have concerns, which Amanda pointed out very well about the younger families. I also have concerns about fixed income citizens and that we aren't leaving people behind as we're stretching along. I want to thank everybody for running. I'm hoping that the fact that we have 5 people running for one position this time means that next time around we will have a larger interest from the community. I think the fact that we have so many people come tonight is a really good sign. I think that I would be a very good councillor. I know that it's one of 6. It's a collaborative effort, and I think that I would have a lot to offer to the position. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina, and over to Zach now.
Hello and welcome, everybody. I'm kind of nervous, and I find it funny that last time I was this nervous, it also involved Mr. McCauley, but under slightly different circumstances. For some of you who don't know me, a bit of background. I grew up on the family farm, working in grain and livestock. I attended and graduated from Virden Collegiate Institute here in town. Then furthered my education at Assiniboine Community College, where I received a diploma in business management. After college, I started work in the construction industry, where I gained experience doing a variety of things, from driving truck, hauling freight to northern Manitoba, to estimating and managing the administrative side of the business. I currently sit on the board of directors for the Construction Association of Rural Manitoba. I've lived in Virden with my wife Lacey since 2006, and our son Swade entered our lives on November 28, 2009. A few reasons why I'm running for council. I'm running for town council because I love where we live, and I want to continue to improve our quality of life here in Virden. As a community, we need to promote growth and make sure that Virden is a place that people want to move to and not from. It is important to make sure that our youth stay in the community and get involved. Our local economy here is booming, and we need to make sure that Virden takes full advantage of it by ensuring there is adequate land available for commercial and residential development. It is important that as a council, we continue to maintain and improve the town's infrastructure and make sure that we have good quality drinking water, a properly functioning sewer treatment plant, and streets that are in good condition. As a council, we need to work with other levels of government in order to maintain our doctors and continue to improve our local healthcare and education facilities, as well as preserving our excellent fire and police services. I want to know that our tax dollars are being spent efficiently and that the public has a good understanding of where their tax dollars are being allocated. I feel I can bring fresh new ideas and a new perspective to the council table. My experience as a team player has taught me to solve problems while keeping the big picture in mind. In closing, I want to say that I think it is awesome there's 5 very different candidates running for one seat in a by-election. The voters truly have a choice. If elected, I want to hear from you. I am new to the political scene, but not new to being in a position of leadership. I have an open mind, and I'm willing to listen and analyze the facts before making a decision. With your support, I will help ensure there are fiscal policies in place that will help the community of Virden thrive. I would truly appreciate your vote, and I would like to thank you in advance for the opportunity to represent every one of you. Thank you.
And lastly, we'll have Al come up and speak.
I was sitting there listening to everybody else, and now all of a sudden I'm nervous. Good evening, everybody. I won't give you my whole bio, other than the fact that I've been around this area since 1969. My background was in education. I've got no experience whatsoever in municipal politics, but I have had some experience in educational politics, working with the trustees of Fort Leboeuf School Division. I have written policy myself, which was reflected in our school as well as in the division, and I have participated in policy development in the school division in the past. On the way here, I confronted my nemesis, as usually happens when I got to the corner of 7th and King. There were dozens of cars, and I thought, oh, they're all going to the odd. But some of them must have gone somewhere else. I thought I might be 5 or 10 minutes late. It seemed like an eternity that I had to wait there to get here. In the days and weeks preceding tonight, I have spoken to a number of people. I haven't gone knocking on doors or anything like that, but I've taken the opportunity to discuss with quite a number of people what the issues and concerns are that they might have. Some of the ones that have been mentioned to me are taxes. There's a concern that taxes have gone up. In some cases, one individual said by 60%. I can't verify that, I'm just going by what the person said. Of course, roads were mentioned, the streets in the town. Water, I've always been quite happy with the water. Of course, I lived here in 1969, when if you filled a tub with water, it didn't look like water, it looked like something else. And I'm quite happy with the quality of water I have. I mentioned this to a gentleman the other night, and I can't use the words he used to describe the water he has. So that suggests to me that there are some places in this town where some effort must be made to try and improve the water. It seems to me that the water at the source is okay, but maybe there's something wrong with the infrastructure. A number of people said a few things about zoning. Probably these people had the zoning concerns pertaining mainly to them. And another concern was attracting business to the town. I heard a few stories about businesses choosing not to come to town and going east or west of here instead of being in Virden. I mentioned 7th and King as a concern. Somebody going to get hurt real bad one of these days at that corner. And I know that King Street and 7th Avenue, am I supposed to be quiet now?
Well, you gotta wrap it up, actually.
Okay. Ask me later about some of the other things. I'll maybe have a chance to mention them anyway. Once again, thank you to you people for coming out. I promised that if I was elected, I would do my very best for all the people in the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. So we'll move things on to the next part of the debate in the evening, and that would be the Chamber of Commerce and Town of Virden discussion. So from your tables, I know you guys all have microphones down there as well. Being that, Al, you got the last word in the first round, you'll get the first word in the next round. So you'll have 1 minute to respond to this question. And it's a two-part question. The first would be, what is your view on Virden's potential for business growth? And secondly, can you describe an ideal partnership between the town and the Chamber of Commerce and what that would look like? So go ahead, Al.
I can't even remember the first part of the question.
That would be, what's your view on Virden's potential for business growth?
With the, are these things supposed to be working here?
Yeah, they should be working. You can pick it up though.
With the boom in the oil industry around here, I can't see why there wouldn't be tremendous potential for business growth in Virden. It bothers me a little bit when I go downtown and I see empty buildings. One of them was vacated just the other day. There's one or two other buildings that have been vacant for a long time. A gentleman told me the other day that one of the things that the town must do is become more friendly toward businesses locating in the town and staying in the town. And what was the second part of that again?
That would be the town and the Chamber of Commerce and the partnership, what that would look like.
The strength of a relationship like that would depend on the strength of the two entities involved. The town council has a history of strength. With all due respect, that hasn't always been true of the Chamber of Commerce. So my answer to that would be, it depends on the degree to which each of these entities is willing to participate in the whole process.
Thank you, Al. I'll move things over to Zach. Any comments? So the first part, Virden's potential for business growth, and secondly, the partnership between the Chamber and the Town and Council.
As I had stated earlier, we're in one of the best economies here in the world, and I think that the town of Virden has to find a way to capitalize on our current situation, and so I see a tremendous opportunity for growth in this town. It will take some work to set the environment up to capitalize on that, but I think it can be done. Second question, view of a perfect partnership between the chamber and the town council. Obviously, the chamber is a very important part of the business community here in town, and I think it is important that the two entities find a way to work together and find solutions for some current problems.
Thank you, Zach. And Tina?
I probably would start with the chamber part of that. I've just had a couple meetings already in the last month or so with a group that started, and it has council members, Felicity's on it for the Chamber of Commerce, business people for downtown business. And this has just been set up to try to bring people into our downtown. We've had meetings about different ideas, getting downtown looking a little better, dragging people in off the highway to downtown that might think King Street is our downtown, things like that. So I think the chamber and the town are making an attempt to try and come together in that kind. Business in Virden, what I think kind of strikes me as something that we need to work on the most is the slightly depressing scene off the highway when you come in. There's no doubt that downtown needs a little work. We need to spruce things up, but the empty gas stations, the indecision on the highway plan, things like that, I think are something that I'm hoping the chamber and the town can do something about. I think that's one of our more important business things at the moment.
Thank you, Tina. So Amanda?
Yeah, I think that we're in a very good time right now for business growth. One thing that I would love to see between the town and the chamber, I know there's been some talk about allowing the hanging signage to come back downtown and some things like that, and I would love to see us tap into that more. We have a lot of really good opportunity to accent some of our older buildings and older architecture and stuff downtown, and I think it would be nice to continue to promote some of that and to maybe even try and draw some tourism with it. We do have the museum downtown, but I think that we could do more for bringing people in some of the historical aspects, not to mention all the oil history that is here, that maybe there could be some more promotion from that. And like has been talked about tonight, it's definitely a time, there is a lot of business coming in right now with oil, but we need to just use that to expand and bring in other pieces that might not always be there, but to look at some other long-term options. And I would love to see some more tourism and even just better signage to let people know what kind of businesses are downtown. Like Tina said, when you come in off the highway, sometimes you don't know that there's more when you get right into town. It sort of looks like.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you.
And Frank?
Thank you. Good, it's working. All right. Like I mentioned earlier, I think it's really important to get some other kind of business or a company that'll actually produce something in town besides the service industry for the oil. And the town might have to give away some incentives to encourage some of these companies to come. Maybe a break on the taxes, the water, or donate some land to them. Anything to get these companies to come. Because sure, the company gets a freebie, but it all ends up in the town eventually. They're going to need employees. We're all going to have children, grandchildren that are going to need a place to live. So we need these kind of jobs that are going to be here for a long time, not just waiting for that oil to peter out, and then we're going to be finished. As far as the Chamber of Commerce, I think it'd be an excellent source of information for the town. Those are the people in the front lines. They have the business ideas, the potentials to make the town grow. With a strong business, the town will grow and prosper. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. So with that, we'll move things over to the question and answer period. At this point, what I will do is I'll pose a question to each of you individually. Following the responses, anyone that wants to add their thoughts or comments around that question is welcome to. Each individual have 1 minute to respond. So I'm going to pose this first question to Amanda. This question is regards to highway commercial development. I know Tina touched on this point a bit. And so, obviously commercial development along the highway has been a problem in terms of the provincial government highway department plans for a new intersection on number 1 and King Street. So what are your thoughts on working to ensure that development can proceed along the highway?
Well, I guess at this point, I know it's difficult, but to just stay on the provincial government to try and get some answers there, and I know that that's often difficult for municipal to try and persuade provincial government, but also just to continue to work on the pieces further out, leading up to that intersection and past there. There's other options as well, and lots of empty space, and it's around my corner now, and past that as well in the gas stations that we could look at maybe trying to pull more business that way.
Okay. Anyone have any thoughts, comments to add on that? Yep, go ahead, Frank.
If I may, for some of these people that want to expand out into that part of the highway, maybe if they can assign some kind of an agreement with the government that when the government needs that road allowance, which might be 100 years down the road, that they set the price at today's land values maybe, that the government won't have to pay through the nose to get this land when they finally do decide to put an overpassing. It's just an idea, but maybe it would be something to approach the government with to give them a little chance to give in a little bit too. Thank you.
Thanks. Go ahead.
Having had some experience with developing, around the community and dealing with highways, they are a very difficult, they are hindering lots of development. I definitely think that is a serious issue that needs to be addressed in our communities to make sure that we can do things that make sense and that we're not working towards a model that's 150 years away or something that will never come to fruition.
Al or Tina, any further comments?
I'm hearing that if the highways department is planning on developing that, it's not going to happen for years and years and years down the road. Surely there could be something done where an agreement, as has been mentioned earlier, could be made so that people could set up some sort of a business there and possibly make a type of building which, if ever the highways department decided to do something, then maybe they could move it out of there. This is just something I thought of in the last few seconds, but that's it.
Thank you. Tina, any further comments? Amanda, did you want to have the last word there? No? Good. Excellent. So I will move the next question over, and this one I will pose to Tina. So council needs to work as a team to be effective. Can you give examples of when you've worked in a team environment, and can you advise how you think you would deal with conflict within a team environment?
I'd like to say I could use my family as an example, but I just rule that from above. So that's not really a good example of a conflict. I've sat on a lot of boards in Virden over the years. I've been on the Arts Council since I moved back to town now. With my boys having gone through, Rennie still sits on the baseball board. I have a fair bit to do with that, and I've sat on the minor hockey board. So anyone who's had anything to do with those knows that that's a small political sphere of its own, and have managed to navigate through that. I guess the best answer to that is that as a rule, I find that I can listen to other people's opinions. I can, in time, have my opinion changed. If someone else comes to me with a side of an agreement that I hadn't thought of before, I could admit as a rule that I was wrong about something, that there's something that needs to be changed. I think that usually works well in a group environment where you need to do lots of talking and lots of figuring things out. And that with 6 people on council, I think that it is important that you all get along. It is not how important that you all get along to the point that you just automatically have the same opinion.
Thank you. I'm going to have to cut
Okay.
you off there, thanks, and just in the interest of time. So with that, I'll open it to the rest of the candidates. Any other things to add in there, or thoughts, comments?
I have experience working as a team in the business that we're in, and you know, if you keep things simple, you get the facts, you listen to two sides of the stories, and you know, you make an educated decision, and you know, as long as you respect one another in the process, there's always a way to come to a positive solution.
Thank you. Any further comments, Alan? Frank?
I spent 35 years in one profession, and I'm just finishing 10 years in another job where I've had to work with people, and one of the things I realized is that you don't have to necessarily like the people, but you have to respect the fact that they might not think the way that you think, and you have to be professional enough to be able to work with them in order to achieve the best results.
Go ahead, Frank.
When you're on a position like the council or any other board, you got to remember that you're one voice in six. Your opinion, according to you, is probably really great, but it might be a bonehead's opinion in the end. So you kind of got to be able to learn to give and take, and when you can see big confrontations coming up, sometimes it's very helpful if you can be the one that kind of slows everyone down, get them to relax a bit and take a breath, and just show lots of respect for each other. Thank you.
The biggest things to remember with council is that we are representing a very large group of people, and we're all coming to the table with different perspectives and different points of view. So just to know that we each have our own expertise in our own area that we feel very strongly in. And I may not know as much about maybe how the dump works or how, you know, grading roads and things like that. I'm willing to listen for things like that, but I do know where I am stronger and where I can speak up. And I think that that's very important to be able to work as a team and to know when other people can step up and maybe provide better information and more information and take the lead on some of those decisions, and just knowing where my own strengths are and where I can help.
Thanks. Tina, any further? No? Okay. Great. Moving on to the next question. I'll pose this to Zach. Where do you see the town council, or what kinds of things do you think the town council should be focused on right now, and why?
I think, you know, being in the environment that we have here today, we need to focus on how to make our town grow, how to increase our tax base, how to get more businesses, you know, in the community. And ultimately, if we can accomplish those things, the town will thrive as a result.
Thank you, Zach. Anyone further comments? Amanda, go ahead.
We are in a good position right now to continue to improve infrastructure and things like that, but we're also in a position where we can look further ahead and focus more on our future. And it's not just about having the amenities available for living. We need to actually have a better future for our community, and I think that we're at a point in time where we can take a look at doing the things that will actually improve the standard of living, improve the health of our community, and help families and just different individuals live the best life they can in our communities.
Go ahead, Al.
I'm a proponent of long-term planning. I've had some experience with it in the past. Maybe 5 years down the road, we need to plan for roads, infrastructure, sewer and water. I know the town has a strategic plan because I've seen it on the internet, but I don't know whether it's a 5-year plan or a 3-year plan, or whether it's something that's visited annually. But I've had a lot of experience with long-term planning, and I find that that works really well. And I'm particularly in favor of stakeholder input in decision-making, and I'm a very strong believer in evaluation at all levels, be it council, mayor, CAO, or other employees of the town. There should be annual evaluations, or every 2 years, internal, external evaluations involving not just the people in a position of authority, but the employees themselves having some input into this.
Thank you, Al. I'm going to have to cut you off there. Tina, Frank, any further comments on that? They've covered it. Zach, last word? Anything? No? Okay. Moving on, I'll turn things actually back to Al then for this next question. Would you consider recreation to be an essential service in Virden, and why or why not?
I was involved in athletics and recreation for all the years, I guess, that I've been here, and it's one of the most valuable things that we can offer to the young people, and not just the young people, the older people in the community. And right now, I think we're doing a heck of a good job of that. I hear people saying there's nothing to do, nothing to do. Well, there's lots of things to do. And our town right now is doing a real good job of making those opportunities available to young and old.
Anyone else further comments? Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, it's pretty well known that obesity is one of the biggest problems that is going to be facing North America. And I think recreation is the easiest way to get rid of that. Today, for most kids, the entertainment is that darned old internet and video games. We've got to encourage our children to get out there and play. Join a soccer team, join a hockey team, join the football team, whatever. Just get out into the fresh air. And it's pretty well a well-known fact that people that exercise on a regular basis, lo and behold, their brain works a whole lot better too. Everything is just kind of connected in your whole body. If you're going to be a do-nothing, your brain isn't going to work either. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Go ahead.
Recreation is a very important part in our community. It's the foundation to keep our youth in this community, to get them involved, and because of that, I think that it needs to seriously be considered as an important item of the community.
Thank you. Amanda, I think I've seen you grabbing for the mic next there.
Yeah, I really strongly believe that recreation should be a very high priority to the town council. And when we speak of recreation, I don't just mean programming that costs money. We do have lots of really great facilities and lots of opportunity for kids to play sports. Something that I think we could continue to build on, though, is opportunities that for lower income families or that just don't cost as much money for kids to be involved in. I do think that we have a great rec program running. I would like to see even more support for it and more opportunity to run additional programs. I would love to see some intergenerational programming happening in Virden, and I think that is something that could use some support from the town council. I would love to see, I think there's a vast amount of skill and knowledge out there in some of our seniors that I would love to see some programming that could encourage some of those skills to be passed on to younger people in our community. And we know that it's important for our kids to have opportunity for recreation, but we also need that for our older folks as well. And kids will be more healthy when their parents are more healthy. If we could see some family programming that would involve different generations, then I think that would be a huge step towards better health in our community.
Thank you, Amanda.
I agree with Amanda about more programming, maybe not even as structured, different ages, different people. We obviously do a good job of the basics, the hockey, the baseball, those kinds of things. We have the big new rink. It would be nice to see more different programming going on. We have Prairie West Rec. I'd like to see that we're properly funding and using that as something that we already have here, and more going on with the town through that possibly. I think that having as many activities as we have going on and many places that the kids can go and take part in things is part of the reason that we don't have more trouble with our teenagers as well in Virden. A lot of them are kept very busy with the things that they do and events that are going on, and I've always thought that was an important part of our recreation as well, is just the fact that it keeps them occupied.
Thanks, Tina. Al, any last thoughts on the topic of recreation? you get the last word because I posed the question to you initially. So.
Recreation is the best thing we can do for people in this community.
Thank you, Al. All right, we've got one more question during the Q&A session here. Before I get to that, I'll just make note our Chamber President, Dave Woke from Virden Co-op is making his way around here. So if you do have audience questions, if you please want to send them to Dave, and we'll try and get to them shortly. The last question for this session, I'll turn towards Frank here. And the question says, we have a major issue with available housing and as well as future development. So what do you see as a viable option to address future residential development?
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, that I was all for creating some low-cost housing, trailer courts maybe, or what some people like to call modular homes. They aren't all that badly priced. Some people won't want them in the area, but they got people that have to live somewhere. So that's what I would like to try and work towards, either a trailer court or a modular home court, something like that.
Thank you, Frank. Anyone else? Further thoughts, comments? Go ahead, Amanda.
I think it would be interesting to look at some of the options available. There are some provincial housing options, but they're not nearly enough for what we need in our community for low-income families. Maybe it would be worth looking at having the town provide some options there as far as low rental income housing. It's a big expense, but it might be worth it if it means that we can have families come in to work some of the jobs that we're having a hard time filling. It's some of those lower earning jobs that we can't fill, and it is partly because there's not a lot of lower income housing available, so it might be worth looking at if that is too big of a project to take on, or might be worthwhile.
Thank you.
I definitely have to agree with Amanda on that, because I think that there are businesses that would consider moving to Virden that aren't the highest paying jobs, and that is a big part of the problem, is that the employees that they need can't afford to live in Virden, or the price of housing. A trailer park, as Frank said, is something I think would be a wonderful idea if we had a place to put it. They are not the trailers of old. They can be brought in easily. They're a very safe thing. They're very family friendly. And they're just, not everybody is making the $40 an hour in the oil field. And I really think that we need to have the affordable housing, not just for the young families, but also for some people on fixed incomes, because there are a lot of seniors that are going to find, if they're moving to town to be with families or other things like that, that housing is going to be tight for them as well. And we just need to supply our citizens with more places to live.
Thank you, Tina. Zach?
I agree that we definitely need to find more affordable housing. I see one of the first steps to providing more affordable housing is working with the various levels of government and with the town to make sure that there is available, properly zoned land that these developments can take place on. We all know that you know, trailers are affordable and that sort of thing, but if you don't have a piece of land to put your trailer on, you kind of don't have a choice in the matter. There's nothing available. So again, I see the first step is you know, making sure there's available, properly zoned land.
Thank you, Zach. Al, any thoughts?
I don't think there's any real easy answer to this problem at this time. At least I don't see one.
Thanks. And Frank, I'll give you the last word. You'll pass? Okay, no problem. Well, we'll just take a second here and we'll gather up the audience questions and then we'll move into the session, the final session of the evening. So. right, so we've got 3 here we're going to start with. So, first one here I'll get, and I guess I'll just, because you guys are being so civil, I'll just open this up, and whoever wants to answer first can jump at the mic. So this question says, the RM of Wallace and Virden have a mutual interest need for increased economic development. What do you think the RM and Virden could partner, or how do you think the RM and Virden could partner more effectively? I'll open that up. Frank, go ahead.
Well, it's my understanding that our mayor and the Reeve of Wallace have yet to sit down to have a lunch together. I could be wrong on that. I know in the past there's been some real hard feelings between the two. Maybe some fence mending has to go on. I know in some of the outlying areas there have been some potential for development, but nobody wants to move to give the other guy the edge. Maybe they need to join forces in some of these things and try to work together.
Thank you, Frank. Anyone else comments in terms of RM and Virden? Zach, I see you reaching for the mic.
I agree with a lot of what, or some of what Frank has just stated, that I think it is very important that there is a strong relationship between the RM and the town. They need each other to grow, and I think that that is definitely something that should be considered in top priority for the future in order to expand the community we're in.
Any further thoughts? Any other candidates? Okay, I'll go to the next question here. Same thing, I'll open it up to the floor. This is a 2-part question. I see we've actually answered some of this in terms of the residential housing development. So I'll just ask the first part, and that is, what is your vision for a renewal of the downtown of Virden? Anyone's welcome to. Go ahead, Al.
I don't know if it's a vision of the renewal of the downtown, but I was downtown the other day and I was looking at the various stores that are there. A lot of those buildings go back to the 1800s. If you look at the first level of those buildings, they look pretty nice. But if you look above that to the top part, the second story and so on, some of those buildings are not very pleasing to the eye. What I would like to see would be some incentive from the town, whether it be a tax incentive or some other type of motivation to get the people who own these buildings to spruce up the top part. Well, I'll use an example, the Alec Hotel. It recently received a paint job. It looks tremendous now compared to the way it used to look. Couldn't the same sort of thing be done to some of the buildings downtown, the old ones especially? The town could have a role in interesting the people that own these buildings in this whole business of making them a little more cosmetically appealing, is what I think.
Thank you, Al. Anyone else? Tina?
I guess I'll jump on kind of what Al said, because actually the downtown business group that is getting itself going now, that's one of the things that it's looking at, is giving people help and ideas on how to fix up the buildings to make them look a little bit more period, to maybe help get some of the apartments that over the years downtown have been left abandoned back open, to get buildings used more thoroughly and those kind of things, because we do have quite a few that are sitting downtown, some looking okay and kept up, and some looking a little more derelict. And that's something that definitely the town and the chamber and a few business owners as well as myself are looking towards trying to do something with, that the chamber's actively brought forward, as well as with the downtown, I guess. For anybody who doesn't know me, I live kind of little house on the prairie style above my store downtown. So we have put quite a bit of money into our building and into living down there, and it's a very enjoyable life. And I think we have to bring people back more into using their entire building downtown and making use of it as a neighborhood.
Thank you, Tina.
And I agree with a lot of what Al and Tina said, and I think too that the council needs to find a way to communicate with those downtown business owners and find cost-effective ways that the exterior appearance of those buildings could be brought up to date. Virden has a very rich history in a lot of those buildings, and they should be preserved, and so I think it is definitely something that should be considered going forward.
All right, any further comments, Amanda, Frank? No? Okay, I'll go on to the next question then. And this question speaks to, at the end of the 2-year term, are you all prepared, or I guess individually, are you prepared to run again in town council elections 2 years from now when the term's up? And I know difficult to say what the future holds, but if you can answer that, I'll open that up.
I guess I'll answer that simply because until this 2-year term came up, my plan was originally to run in 2 years because my kids will be gone from home, and I thought that sounded like a good plan, so I would run again in 2 years.
Yeah, I'll second that. It's something I've been interested in for a long time, and it's only been recently that my schedule and my work has allowed for it, but it's something that I have been interested in for a very long time, and I would hope that if I do, then yeah, it would be a long term.
I feel as well that the first being new to this whole operation, I know that there's a lot to be learned at the council table, and I anticipate I will learn a lot in the first couple of years, and I think that I feel at least that I should run another term to in order to make a difference and to get a grasp on the issues and that sort of thing. It sometimes takes some time to do that. So yeah, I feel that I would definitely run again in 2 years.
Go ahead.
As I've stated many times, it's every individual's responsibility that lives in town, does business in town, to be willing to contribute something to the town. So this is my kick at the can, and to make the answer a little extra short, yes.
My answer to the question is, I don't know. I thought it would be interesting to run for the vacant council position, just because I thought it was time to do something like that. It depends, I guess, on whether I get anything out of it or whether I enjoy the work of the council. So to be honest with you, there's a good chance that I'd be interested in running in another election, but I can't say for sure right now.
Great, thank you everyone. So we shouldn't be short of candidates, in other words. Moving on, we probably have time for one or two more questions here. This next question says, does anyone have any ideas as to how our hospital could be better utilized besides just bed care? I'll open that up to anyone. Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a shame we have the facility that we have here, and we're limited to like you say, basically just bed care. And I think too that there's a situation where we have to work together with some other levels of government to try to get those extra services in the community and improve on what we have here today.
I had 2 kids born in this hospital, and it surprises me. It surprised me then that our hospital went out of allowing women to give birth. Some people have said it was the choice of the doctors in the town not to want to do this. There is possibly a logical reason for it, but nobody has told me what that is. I would like to see our hospital do something along these lines. I also wonder why our hospital never got involved in stuff like dialysis and things like that other hospitals around here have. Like Rivers does the, when people break a hip, they go in there and they get therapy. And is it Killarney that you go to for things to do with the heart, and you go somewhere else for this, somewhere else for that? Our hospital is a very modern facility. I've often wondered why the effort wasn't made to try and have it specialize in one of these areas.
Yeah. Go ahead, Frank.
I did sit on the hospital board, or the Regional Health Authority, when it was the Assiniboine Regional Health Authority. And whenever you tried to do anything, it always boiled down to politics. It was always politics that ran the show. If you created too much of a stink, they'd kick you out because it wasn't agreeable to the politicians. When I was on the board, there was one hospital that was empty for 2 weeks. It did not have a patient in it. It was still staffed because that was the rules. They had to have nurses there. I made the suggestion, well, let's close it. Boy, that was received with not open arms, I'll tell you that, because it was just too politically sensitive. In this corner of the province, it's a conservative riding. It always will be. Sometimes I think that's part of the problem. The Conservatives, when they get in, don't have to do too many favors here. The NDPs, when they get in, there's no point in doing favors here. So I think we're just between a rock and a hard spot. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
Yeah,
Got one fan here for sure, Frank.
I agree with Frank. I think that is something that is, it's beyond the realm of council and the decisions that are made about the hospital. I really don't know that council can have a lot of influence on that. It's higher than that. It's part of the RHA. Right now, with the amalgamation of the 3 RHAs, it might be a time to have some influence and some input on structuring healthcare services in this area. But I really think the best thing we can do to keep our healthcare is to keep decent housing and attract people to our community, attract doctors and nurses to our community. I think a lot of it boils down to who can have staff for that as well. It's not just who has the hospital, but it's also staffing it. And I think we also have to remember that some services, as nice as it would be to have all of those services in our community, it's not always feasible, and we do want the people looking after us to be people who do those things all the time. So I know for myself it might be great to have children in the Virden Hospital, but I also, appreciate going somewhere where someone does it every day. And I think just to keep the services at a high enough level, sometimes it has to be in a larger center. And I think we need to appreciate that some of that is just outside of the realm of council.
No? Okay. Well, I think we've got time for one more question here. And I appreciate the math that's gone on in this question here, and it's something we haven't talked about yet. I don't know as far as the, checking the facts on this, but apparently Virden has approximately 40 miles of pavement, which has about 30 years of utilized expectancy. So hence, we need to be upgrading about 1.25 miles annually. How do we expect to meet the economic realities of this problem? I'll open that up for final question.
I think the first thing to do to solve that problem is create a plan as to how we're going to pave that 1.25 miles a year.
So, yeah.
And I think we need to look, at the dollars and cents, what's feasible, what's realistic, and ultimately make our decision based on the facts.
I think this kind of sounds like one of the questions we were discussing sitting out in the crowd before, that there were going to be maybe some that, not having sat on council yet, we wouldn't really have a good grasp on. And I think we were maybe talking about water when we meant it, but this might kind of fall in that same line. The common sense wise that the roads need to be done and things to be taken care of, but not having been in those meetings and sat on that, yes, I want my potholes fixed. But no, I have no really good answer for you on how you go about it in those mathematical terms. That would be one of those learning curves that you learn about in the first 2 years, I know for me and for most of us.
You'll notice we have given bottled water tonight as well.
Yeah, I know I was talking to Jeff here a couple of weeks ago about paving and stuff, and no, I know, and I'm just mentioning you, I'm getting you involved in this, Jeff, whether you want to or not. And apparently they do have a bit of a budget and a plan that allows for a certain amount of paving every year. And boy, I don't know how we're going to pave 1.5 miles or 1.25 miles every year. We're just going to have potholes and learn to live with them for a while. Because if we want to do this, I know it's fine so long as my taxes don't go up. And I think I've got a lot of company in that one.
Amanda or Adam, go ahead.
I don't know how possible it is, but I've thought about this a little bit over the last quite a few months. Why can't there be cold mix available for the employees of the town, so that if they have some time left at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day, or if they could make some time available, some of these holes could be filled. You know, it only takes a couple hours to fill a few holes. And the area down by the Collegiate on 7th Avenue has been treacherous for the last God knows how long. I don't know how feasible this is because I'm not directly involved with the town and the town employees, but it would seem to me that this might be something that might work. It would help. You don't have to build a 1.25 meters or miles of street, but you can sure as heck keep the street you have in a little better condition by filling a few holes.
Thank you. Amanda, any further comments? I know you haven't had a chance on this one, but no?
I'm sure that there's not an easy answer for that, and I think that our town employees are doing what they can within the budget that's made, and if there is issues with keeping up long term, then that would be a budget issue, and looking at priorities long term for fixing. I think that that's probably not an easy answer, and I think that it would be more of an issue around prioritizing roads at the cost of cutting something else to make that happen.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I will end the debate here in the essence of time. I know we wanted to keep this around an hour, so if we can have a round of applause for all our debate participants and candidates. We wish you all the best in next week's election, and thank you also to everyone here on behalf of the Virden Chamber of Commerce and the Town Council. We do appreciate your participation in tonight's event, and again, you're all invited to the back of the auditorium for snacks and refreshments sponsored by Tim Hortons in Virden. So thank you.